Today I will be discussing the Hudson River Project, and I will be reviewing supporting evidence that shows dredging to be a great decision for removing PCBs from the river. The Hudson River Project is the nation's largest non-governmental Superfund toxic waste site. It's about 200 miles of federally designed American Heritage River, which were contaminated with PCBs discharged during the industrial manufacturing process of GE Electric Corporation. On December 12, 2000, 23 years after PCBs were banned, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency had at last issued a draft of a proposed plan to physically remove PCBs and other contaminants from targeted hotspots in the upper Hudson River. This became known as the Hudson River Project. Opening concerns. There's mixed reviews on whether or not we should remove the PCBs. Many environmental scientists, however, say river bottoms are fragile, ever-changing places, and the best long-term safe solution is to remove the PCBs from the river. I agree with that stance. Some environmental impacts. PCBs tend to build up in living organisms both by uptake from the environment over time and along the food chain. The degree of PCB bioaccumulation over time depends on how quickly they are taken up or eliminated by the organisms. In aquatic organisms, bioaccumulation of PCB depends on the species, its habitats, and on the specific type of PCB. In aquatic environment, concentrations will thus be greater in shellfish than in plankton on which they feed, and even greater in animals at the top of the food chain, such as seals, dolphins, and whales. Humans can also accumulate PCBs from food. Health impacts. The primary health risk associated with the site is the accumulation of PCBs in the human body through eating contaminated fish. PCBs have been demonstrated to cause a number of adverse health effects. PCBs have also been known to cause cancer in animals, as well as a number of serious non-cancer health effects in animals, including the effects on immune system, reproductive system, nervous system, endocrine system, and other health effects. Studies in humans support evidence for potential carcinogenic and non-carcinogenic effects of PCBs, and the different health effects of PCB may be interrelated. Alterations in one system may have significant implications for other systems of the body. Some of the project benefits. By eliminating PCBs, we can help the environment regain balance. The removal of PCBs will improve marine life in the Hudson River, making the fish consumption safer for humans and also making the water safer for human interaction. And that could be either swimming, sailing, or fishing. It will also be a success for the local economy, providing about 500 jobs at its peak. Proposed action. The steering and resuspension of PCBs was controlled and carefully monitored so that the minimal exposure to air and to the workers on the project. There is a panel of dredging-related experts to review the work along with EPA and GE, which they're overseeing everything that the project entails. The finest sediments removed from the river have the most PCB. For extra safety measures, both sediments were separated and processed separately. The materials was then loaded into rail carts off-site. The site itself had rubber liners underneath to contain any PCBs that would have gotten on the pavement or other surfaces, and that way the PCBs could be contained on site. The potential for air emissions for PCBs was a concern, so EPA and GE created some quality standards for air emissions, lighting, and noise, so that everything would be controlled and monitored, and they would minimize the impact on the community as they did the work. Program monitoring. All the work on the project were covered through OSHA, and all the risk assessments was done before the dredging and afterwards to ensure the most safety. Risk assessments conducted found that the risks were within risk range or below risk range for air emissions and resuspension. The major risk of PCBs was found in the people who were ingesting the fish, therefore there will be fish monitoring throughout the whole process. Prior to making the decisions to dredge, analysis and modeling of the river had to be conducted in order to project how the recovery rates in fish, water, and the sediment would be. As the river recovers, all three of those tracked at a similar rate of recovery as the river concentrations of PCBs decrease. The EPA and GE hired engineers so that they can oversee all the standards of production during the dredging, and monitoring will be conducted and continue to be conducted every 5 years. Looking ahead, these are all the different monitoring programs. We're going to be monitoring the water column monitoring, habitat monitoring, fish monitoring, and many other more. Here's all the references for you to look over, and thank you for listening to my presentation.